Without doubts, I think it's by far the best league in Europe.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Well, guys, next up, we got Nottingham Forest. A lot of people coming in. We've been talking about like some of the teams that made it to the Premier League and how they approach it. Obviously, these guys are kind of like taking it. We always talk about, either kind of being cautious, adding a couple of pieces, or blowing it up. And blowing it up by adding a lot of pieces, it is for Forest. Bickler, what do you make of all these incomings we're looking at?
I mean, there's this and there's Bournemouth, right? Those are the two transfer strategies for being a newly promoted team. You either do absolutely fucking nothing or you buy everybody. I mean, this is going to be a mixed bag, I'm sure. There's actually a lot of this I like. I think the best player that's going to end up out of this deal, honestly, somebody who's not even on there. It's somebody they added late last year in Ponzo, who was with Cooper when they won the England World Cup in 2017 for the youth teams. He looks really good this year. I think he's going to be really good on the left side for them. I mean, I think Nico will do well there. The Nigerian forward is going to be very, very interesting, right? I mean, coming out of Liverpool, we had all sorts of visa issues with him. He goes to Germany, absolutely lights it up. So let's see what happens here with him. That could be a very good pickup for them. Like, look, I actually don't hate this strategy. Like, if I'm coming into the Premier League, like, I would rather roll the dice and have, like, just if you're just playing the percentages, right? You'd rather have 12 transfers and have a couple of those dudes work out than do the Bournemouth thing and sit on your hands, or the Norwich thing and sit on your hands and just bounce back down the championship again next year. So, I mean, I can't fault them for trying. It is a little bit funny when you look at like 5 fullbacks and 3 center backs getting added to a list. They're not all going to work out, but I mean, it's a preferred strategy versus doing nothing.
See, I feel like there should be a happy freaking medium, though, right? I mean, what do you think, Gallia? It just feels like it's very risky to add so many pieces and expect, even though there is an improvement. I agree that, what a team like Bournemouth is doing right now is probably not the ideal scenario either, in terms of not doing anything and expecting the side that did well in Championship to kind of like duplicate it in the Premier League. Not obviously duplicate it, but at least to be able to hang around. But I think adding so many new pieces at the same time is rolling the dice in the complete opposite way, hoping somebody is going to stick. Because, yeah, like when we look at this list, there's like a bunch of right backs, there's a bunch of left backs. By the time you do trial and error, is it going to be too late?
Yeah, I think it is too much personally. To Paul's point, I'm right there with you. If you're going to either do Bournemouth or this, at least this shows your fans you're trying to do something to stay up and trying to improve. I'm always interested to see this team that won the playoff, because I always feel like sometimes they're the ones that were the furthest out. Forest was close to getting the second spot in the automatic promotion, but they had to win that tough playoff. And I think when you get through the playoff, you almost like you're a little bit more desperate to hold your spot in the league, because I think with Fulham and Bournemouth, they earned it over 48 matches. It's a lot, or 46 matches. That's a lot of matches to acquire points to get automatic promotion. Where in the other one, it's, a one-off game and so much stress. The biggest loss is probably, we're going to talk about the losses, but they bought all these fullbacks because their best player last year might have been Jed Spence, who was on loan from Middlesbrough, who's now with Tottenham, who we'll talk about a little later tonight in the show. He offered them a lot, and I think Nico has to play a big role at creating on the right. I really like the kid they got. I think it was Darby. They got the kid, the left fullback, Tolofolo. I thought he was really good last year in the championship, and I think he could be really good for this side. I hope the ex-Liverpool striker is able to hit the ground running. He absolutely did at Union Berlin, but the Bundesliga is a different animal than the Prem. But I think he looks like he's a Premier League striker. So it's always the same with me when it comes to promoted sides. Will they score enough goals to stay up? And honestly, they don't have a Premier League recognized striker. So I think you got to see it before you can actually say for sure you know what's going to happen.
And I think also, they've added a lot of pieces. A lot of the pieces they added, actually, aside from the center forward, are mostly like, defensive. I actually worry about that a little bit more, knowing, it takes a while to kind of gel and work these people in. Bickler, does any of like the money part of it shock you, instead of, giving the Nigerian center forward Awani 22, almost 23, and then Nico 22? Are those, do the price tags shock you at all? High, low? What do you make of that?
Yeah, those are pretty high. I mean, for those players specifically, but like, I mean, and I would say historically probably not, but if you look at this window in retrospect to like what players, like what people played for top players, the fees are noticeably lower. So, but I also think as a promoted side, you're most often probably going to overpay a little bit for quality.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that that's pretty on par with what they needed to do. I think, God, dude, I hope the rumored wages on Jesse Lingard are wrong, because like if that is true, like that's more concerning to me than paying for a 21-year-old striker. You know what I mean? Like, and like, look, I think Jesse Lingard's probably paying for quality, and I get that. But I also think that anyone that goes by Jay Lings on an unveiling shirt at 30 years old probably has some other question marks aside on there.
And I think that's the thing. If you're bringing Jesse Lingard, especially in those wages, I mean, you are kind of paying for the experience, right? And I would think you're kind of expecting a leadership role in some form or fashion when you bring in a player like that. I'm not sure if Jesse is that person, especially after kind of like going around. He even came here, like talked to a couple of Major League Soccer teams and stuff. I think that was kind of like, more like agent work than anything else, probably. I was personally shocked that, he did not get moved last January. And we kind of like talked about this when we were doing the preview for Manchester United. But I think that's Manchester United's fault for not getting something for him. And then, they didn't even play in the second half of the season much. So it was kind of like, why did you guys even keep him? I mean, what do you think of that move along, Gally? I personally don't see him as a guy who's going to provide leadership. Leadership does not come with age, if they're just looking at age and how many years he's been in the league.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for leadership from Jesse Lingard, all you need is like one quick scroll through Twitter, his Instagram, and his TikTok accounts, and you will know that Jesse Lingard is not leading anything except for a guy's trip to South Beach. So that's his mentality. That's his personality. Now, I think that's part of what they bought, though. I mean, they're hoping they get the Jesse Lingard that showed up at West Ham and played like a player that was a different, honestly, to be fair, he played at that time like a different quality than anyone else at West Ham, and he made everyone around him better. And I think they see him as playing in the attacking number 10 role because, to my point earlier, I think their struggle will be scoring goals. And they believe that if they get themselves a creative midfielder that has proven that they can make, serviceable to really good Premier League players even better by giving a little bit of guile, a little bit of difference. And, he's not Christian Eriksen by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they saw what Brentford got out of Eriksen last year in Lingard. So they overpaid. They invested a little heavy because they wanted to bring in a player that the young players on this side knew at least was a part of a big club and has been a Premier League fixture, because he has been in the Premier League for 13 years as a first-team player at United. Now, the fact he never made it with 4 different managers speaks enough about his character to me to probably let you know there's something wrong there. This is a gamble for Forest. I think it could pay off for him if he's good. But if I were a betting man, and I am, I wouldn't bet on this being a smashing success. I'd bet on him maybe playing in MLS someday soon. And not.
I mean, the fact that they got him on a free transfer, kind of you can say, okay, they went heavy on the wages because they did not pay like a transfer for him. They got him on a free transfer. So I'm not as concerned with that. I mean, you gave the example of Eriksen, for example, at Brentford. And I think that's where we kind of could change it, because I do not see Lingard in that caliber. And I know what you mean in terms of West Ham. But when you look at West Ham, that team, he had a lot of people around him to make better. And I think it's the same scenario for Eriksson, where he had some pieces over there around him. Does he have those players around him here, Bickler, to bring the impact that, Gally is saying that they are definitely, hopefully counting on? Well, Gally's betting against it, but sounds like Forrest is betting for it. Where do you bet? You are a betting man yourself.
Yeah, I think they're different scenarios. Like I get the comparison. I do think that Brentford was in a situation where you've got a squad full of, you've got a tactical identity, you've got a squad full of Danish internationals, and then you're bringing in the Danish captain of their international team. So I think it's a different scenario. I mean, it could work. I mean, maybe he does come in and start scoring goals from the 10 spot and we all look stupid, right? I mean, I think that's definitely a calculated risk on their part. I just personally think he's a bit of a knucklehead. And I don't know, I just don't know, with that many young players around you in a new league, in a promoted side, if that's the move you want to make. And I guess there's only one way to find out, and let's just play the matches and we're going to find out. But we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting, right? Are they going to pull a Brentford? Are they going to come out and it's going to take teams a couple months to adjust to the way that they play? I don't know that I don't know if they've necessarily got that firepower, but I mean, we gotta like call a spade and at least acknowledge the fact that Nottingham, for the last half of last year in the championship, was the best side in the championship, top to bottom. And so we do have to give them that respect, and we'll see what happens.
What do you think will happen then? I mean, as we look at kind of the outgoings, what do you forecast for them? Where they end this season?
I think they got enough to stay up. I think they've got enough in the tank. I think that they'll hit in that I think they'll be in that 14 to relegation fighting spots. I think they'll be in a relegation fight. I think they will escape at the end of the day.
How about you, Gally? Do these moves work, or where does Nottingham Forest end up at the end of the season?
So I'm gonna, if I give you my statement of my heart, they stay up, because to Paul's point, I watched a lot of them down the stretch, and they were really, really fun. And I think Cooper's a good manager that could be building something really great there. I fear that too many changes might allow them to get off to a slow start. And I think a slow start for teams that get promoted can then lead them into being in a relegation battle way too early for young players to be able to get out of. And we talk about the fact, I actually read somewhere that they're going to give Jesse Lingard the captain's armband, which is purely just because of the club he played at one day. I hope that's not true, because that would be a huge, huge mistake, because he can be your best player. It doesn't have to be your leader. And I think that's where I fear for them. Like, their coach, their manager is their leader, and he helped drag them, into the championship playoff and then to the final and winning it. So I want them to stay up. I think if I were betting with my wallet, I'd probably bet on them to finish probably 18th and just miss out on a second year in the Premier League. But I honestly hope I'm wrong, because Forest is a big, big club, and the Premier League will be better if they become a fixture in it again.